Hello, everyone. There is the Nürburgring Castle. Here is the Nürburgring. This is round 6 of the Ferrari Challenge for 2024. And a qualifying session for our Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers about to take to the track. And as I promised you, round 6 it is. Round 7 to come at the World Finals, the Finale Mondiale at Imola. That will be the final round, 16th to the 20th of October. So this is what the Nürburgring looks like when the sun shines, which it really hasn't today. It's been sort of cloudy and gloomy overhead all day long, and I'm guessing that it's not going to change now. The air temperature, 27 degrees. Track temperature, rather, 27 degrees. Air temperature, merely 18 degrees. 5 kilometers per hour of wind. That's all there is. And that's the way it looks in terms of meteorological conditions currently. As I mentioned, we have our Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers out there on track, and this is the track, 5.1 kilometers, the Nürburgring, which features 15 turns, 6 left, 9 right, and it's quite undulating as it winds its way through the Eifel region of Germany here. And it is the famed Nürburgring GP circuit that we are using, and as you can see, champing at the bit, ready to get out there. Straight away is Philip Barron in the number 91 car. This is Herbert Geis, who drives car number 11. He's waiting to get out there. Now, he's one of our Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers. The difference you can tell between whether you're a Pirelli Am driver or a Pirelli driver is according to the sun strip that's atop the windscreen. It's white for Pirelli drivers, it's for Pirelli Am drivers, I should say, and it's red for Pirelli drivers, and that the driver of the number 9 car that you can see, Danilo Del Favero for Penske Sportwagen Hamburg. We'll see how he does in this qualifying session. Now, this qualifying session sets the grid for the second race across the weekend, which takes place on Sunday. The reason we're doing our qualifying sessions on the Friday is because it's a Ferrari Racing Days event here at the Nürburgring, where we're just in the F1 Clienti and the Sport Prototipi out there on track as well, with the 499P Modificata. But now it is the turn of the Ferrari Challenge racers in Pirelli and Pirelli Am to get out for their 30-minute qualifying session. And as we look at the number 18 car of Michael Verhagen, who went very well in qualifying this morning, it's time to introduce my colleague alongside me, Nico Spalek. Hello.
Hello, everybody, and good afternoon here. It's a Friday afternoon, but it almost feels like a Sunday morning because of qualifying. Number 2 ready to go and take to the track. There is the Federico Al-Rifai car. Very interesting livery and combination of the black and yellow and the Italian flag. One of the many, many very evocative and iconic liveries across all our Ferrari Challenge cars and categories. And there is the driver and the car. That is Klaus de Branson, leader in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Had an up and down and up season thus far. And there is Henrik Viol, who at one point led the championship for Pirelli Am. Is relegated to P3 for the time being, but very much still in
Absolutely.
with the shout. Marco Zanazzi is the driver in the Viol de Branson sandwich. He is P2, but he's only leading Henrik Viol by a point or two, so it was really, really close among them. And there is the man who put it on pole for qualifying 1 earlier today, in quite different track conditions, it has to be said.
Yes, it was damp this morning when the drivers were out for qualifying for their race 1. It's certainly not damp now, so this is their qualifying for race 2. I remind you, they will be going out to qualify for their race on Sunday right now. Forecast weather conditions are extraordinary across the course of Saturday and Sunday, and I think it's fair to say, Nico, that race day 1, weather conditions may be altogether different when it comes to race day 2.
Yeah, and possibly, since it's the Nürburgring, turn 1 and turn 5 may be in a different climate zone altogether. Yeah, I mean, the Nürburgring is renowned for very unpredictable weather, and fog is something that always has to be contended with, and rain as well, and everything in between, hailstorm, snow. We expect tomorrow to be somewhat sunny, potentially, at least That's what the percentages say. Sunday, more rain affected potentially. This could play into the strategy of the teams, and that if they are sure that Sunday is going to be a wet race, they can take everything out of the slick tires in qualifying because they won't need them for the race.
Precisely.
However,
It's a gamble.
it would be a major gamble, but it might be something that some teams will take into account when approaching this qualifying session. As we get the first crocodile of cars onto the installation lab, getting the tires, the brakes, the drivers, everything up to temperature.
Indeed so, as we saw Andreas Berg Sorensen making his way past Otto Blank to make further his progress up the track. And there you can see weaving from side to side to try and get some temperature into the brakes and the tires. And Ben Svalent has got the hurry up, and he's trying to get past Gianmarco Mazzioletti, I think. As there you can see the white and yellow car of Andreas Berg Sorensen. There it is, going through on shot now. Angelo Fontana, there's Otto Blank. And here then is, I think that was Hanno Laskowski going through. So, all of our drivers out there for this 30-minute session, of which the first 2 minutes are done. Running down the back straight now. And through this chicane, which is one of my favorite parts of the Nürburgring circuit. And Ben Svalent heading Gianmarco Marzioletti, then Philip Barron, then Andreas Berg Sorensen. No, this is Philip Barron in the number 91 car, heading down towards turn number 1 right now. It's a really, really interesting right-hander. And Philip then kisses the apex just nicely. That's about the most perfect textbook example of how to make the best out of turn number 1. But of course, it's ever so easy to do it when you've got not got other cars around you in the race conditions, where sometimes they go 2s and 3 abreasts into turn number 1. Your perfect line and trajectory is somewhat compromised, I would suggest.
Yes, absolutely. And traffic is something that's always a topic in qualifying, and when you've got the likes of 26 cars taking part in the qualifying session, it is inevitable that some drivers will feel that traffic will hamper their progress.
Yes.
Others may feel that they've been extremely lucky, and there is a middle ground as always. And Philip Barron is trying to not hit the middle ground. First sector is purple. At this early stage of the session, that's not that meaningful. Just to give you a reference point, the quickest times we've seen over the day, and remind you, it's been very changeable weather conditions, was a 1:59 point, I think 6 something. Again, is not necessarily indicative, but anything that's over 2 minutes and let's say 3 seconds is probably not something that the drivers would wish to have on the timing screen come the end of the session. The rest we will find out, and Philip Barron is finding the levels of adhesion acceptable for his 296 challenge as he's finished the second sector and is going through the chicane. We've seen very different approaches to the chicane, from the downright adventurous to the calm and modest, and we're not quite sure which is the fastest one.
Well, I think from having watched watched all the drivers out there, I think calm and modest seems to work best. However, when you're a racing driver, you're going to go all guns blazing and give it everything, and that's what Philip Barron has done, and I think he has posted the fastest time of the day so far, a 1:59.828. Ben Svalent delivered a 2:02.945, then Max Mugelli with a 2:04.546, ahead of Hanno Laskowski, Axel Sartingen, Andreas Berg Sorensen, and Angelo Fontana. And here is Axel Sartingen. Look at that smile on his face. Home track for Axel. I seem to recall that he lives in Cologne, and therefore that's about an hour away from the Nürburgring, and Axel absolutely loving this. His driver coach, Daniele Diamato, is not telling him a joke over the radio. I can assure you that Axel is just enjoying every centimetre of tarmac here. He's done a lot of laps here in racing, and yes, he's enjoying the Nürburgring. The Hertha Racing prepared number 78 car being chased by Andreas Berg Sorensen, who in turn's car is prepared by Formula Racing. Back on board we go with Axel Sartingen. That's a great onboard shot because it shows us the driver and the emotions. It also shows us the dashboard and the the paddle shifts on the steering wheel. I mean, these are just remarkable cars. And Axel Sardigan has gone quicker than anyone through Sector 1 because the S1 bar that you can see on the graphics at the bottom of your screen is lit purple. That means quicker than anybody for Axel Sardigan. I proffer to say that he knows the Nürburgring really well. If you are familiar with the nuances of this circuit, that probably is worth some 100ths, maybe even a tenth or two in terms of your track time.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in terms of consistency and being able to nail each and every lap because you've experienced it in very different weather conditions. So Axel Sardigan certainly one to reckon with. Didn't have it his own way in qualifying one, it has to be said. Didn't finish high up the order. We just talked about potential times as Axel Sardigan puts in a very, very good time in first in class with a 2:01.399. But Philip Barron did an installation lap almost with a 1:59.8. He has followed up with a 1:58.531. Essentially matched by Ben Savaland.
Yes.
So the times we were talking about from earlier today, open the window, throw them out. This is going to be a totally different ball game, and well, we're not going to predict what kind of lap times we'll get, but we're already way into the 1:58s.
Yes, Hanno Laskowski has just ousted Axel Sardigan from the P1 position. And Hanno Laskowski, I suppose you would also consider this a local track for him being based in Berlin, which I have to say you wouldn't want to walk it from here, but it is in Germany. But he has delivered a 2:00.909. We're watching Giacomo Altoe. And Giacomo Altoe then, driver of the number 2 car for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. And prepared by Emil Frey Racing. But we're watching Ben Svalint, who's second fastest, but has done a personal best through Sector 1. If he can, similar trajectory through Sector 2, he could trouble the time set by Philip Barron. Top 3, Philip Barron, Ben Svalint, Max Mugelli. Here is Ben Svalint then, closing out Sector 2 with a better than anyone. He's nearly 5/10ths up on Philip Barron. This could be an outstanding lap from Ben Svalint in the early stages of this qualifying session. Let's see how he does then. The Ferrari Budapest Rosso Corsa racer then, whose father Tibor races in Coppa. Benz is in Trofeo Pirelli, and Benz went 3/10ths quicker than anybody else, and therefore finds himself P1 with a 1:58.223. Very good time indeed from Ben Svalint. Well done, young Benz. Delivered a great time, 3/10ths quicker than Philippe Barron.
Definitely, and in the meantime, Daniel Del Favero leads Henrik Viol and Hanno Laskowski in the Ams. It's 9 minutes have ticked off the clock as we follow Max Mugelli, the number 3 car from CDP Eureka competition. Another driver who didn't have all his own way in qualifying earlier today. So he also a very experienced driver. He's been here before, so he will hope for a better result at the end of this session. For the time being, he's in a decent P3 position, which is both P3 overall as well as in class, but we haven't seen a time from the likes of Luca Ludwig, the likes of Klaus de Branson, Marcus Zanazzi, and James Owen, to just name a few. So there is still lots we still expect and lots that will be delivered.
Yes, time's not yet been set by Andrew Morrow or Luca Ludwig, as you mentioned. I seem to recall Andrew Morrow was P2 in Pirelli Am qualifying from earlier on today. So, whoa, Hendrik Viol absolutely determined to get by Max Mugelli there. And you can see why, Nico, because the Scuderia Prague driver is sitting on purple sectors through Sector 1 and Sector 2. I rather think that the third sector may not be purple, but it doesn't necessarily need to be for him to be P1 in class. Well, it was, and it is, as he goes to P1 with a 1:58.929, but it's a P1 within the Pirelli Am drivers.
Indeed, yeah.
But P3 overall, which is still not shabby.
Absolutely, and there is Max Mugelli. He now rounds the final turn. He's a mix of colors on his sector times, a gray, an overall best, and another overall best, but that means he stays P3. but in class, but he leapfrogs Henrik Viol again overall, so restores the pride, if you will, of the Trofeo Pirelli drivers over their M competitors. We see the first few lap times deleted because of track limits.
You've taken the words out of, and one of them is for Luigi Colicchio, who is one of our Trofeo Pirelli drivers. And another one has gone the way of Ivan Velasco Sanchez from Mertel Motorsport. And here is Luigi Colicchio then, who thus far seems to have kept it within the white lines. He's done personal best through Sector 1, Sector 2, and does the same through Sector 3. But he stays P4 in class. Here's Henrik Viol then, another overall best through Sector 1 for Scuderia Prague Racing. Now, Henrik Viol, of course, very much involved in that championship chase. Again, he's a driver that's had success and had heartbreak across the course of the season. But that's what motor racing is all about, the emotion of it that we love. It can be brutal, but it can be beautiful as well. And Henrik Viol, actually, he'll be thinking that this lap is a beauty because Sector 1 and Sector 2, once again, Nico, overall bests.
Indeed, and he rounds the final turn, and his current time is a 1:58.929, and we expect a significant improvement over that, and indeed it is, and it goes to a 1:58.335, which is the second overall, so very, very good showing from him. In the meantime, Klaus de Branson, who again, leader in the championship currently, has put it a first time, it's only in P14 for the time being, as things stand. There is Giacomo Alto, and talking about leaders in the championship, Giacomo Alto, it takes or presides in that position for the Pirelli class. He also not yet where he would like to be at the end of the session, because he's down only 6th in class, but that puts him 21st or 22nd actually overall.
Here's Dylan Medler, Pelin racing driver for Ferrari of Miami. And Dylan Medler races in the Ferrari Challenge North America, as well as doing pretty nearly the whole season here in Europe as well. He'll be racing in Indianapolis just next weekend, and he improves a place and goes 4th fastest within class, his 5th fastest overall for Dylan Medler. Young driver, a tall driver as well, and he knows how to propel these 296 cars. Now, this is someone that really impressed me in qualifying one earlier on today, Nico, and that's Federico Alrifai for Rosso Corsa. He's currently 3rd fastest within class on, to my knowledge, his debut in the Ferrari Challenge.
Yeah, definitely, and he figured very prominently in the session earlier, and once again with P3 in class, and certainly an upward trajectory based on the split sector times. He's once again showing that he's really mixing it up with the other drivers, and as you said, on his debut, that's quite remarkable.
With just over half the session remaining, Luca Ludwig remains in the pit lane, Nico. He's leaving it late as Federico Alrifai for Pirelli AM goes P1, but not only Pirelli AM, overall goes P1 with a time of 1:58.053. Are we going to see, before the end of this session, times in the 57s? Because a 1:58.053 is literally 5.5 100ths away from being into the 57s, so it is possible. Meantime, Dylan Medler has called up some traffic here. So Dylan Medler then will try and wrestle his way past the car ahead of him. In fact, in fairness, he's bailed this lap, so Dylan will go again, I reckon. So he is currently 4th fastest within class, 6th fastest overall. The Klaus de Branson car we now see out on track, the current Trofeo Pirelli AM Championship leader. Sector 1, personal best, no surprise, because we've not seen many laps from him. About to close out Sector 2, which is also a personal best. And you can see that Federico Alrifai, if you look at the color bars on his graphics, he's gone quicker than anyone through Sector 1 yet again. So he feels that he's got more pace available to him, and he wants to deliver that in terms of his lap time. So he crosses the timing line, does Klaus de Branson. Last sector let him down a bit. Here comes Federico Alrifai. Rosso Corsa racer then, and Sector 2 is a personal, is an overall best as well. So he's He's taken about a tenth and a quarter out of his previous best time. And if he can continue in that vein of form through this final sector, that will mean that Federico Alrifai re-cements his position right at the top of the chart, which he is a Pirelli AM driver. He lost 3/100ths in the final sector, Nico.
Yeah, just wasn't quite able to get an improvement. But again, it just shows the consistency.
And 3/100ths is the blink, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He would have liked to increase his lead a little bit, but his previous time of a 1:58.053 is still valid and stands, and it reigns supreme for the time being at the top of the times. And thus far, dare I say, nobody is currently chasing him down, so he can breathe easy for a moment. Does that mean that nobody's going to challenge him? Certainly not. And there is a long list of drivers who will go out and who will battle to take that P1 position away from him. And one of those determined ones is certainly going to be Klaus Brunson.
6 drivers have fallen foul of the race director and have had their lap times deleted because of track limits. Those are Dylan Medler, also Andreas Berg Sorensen, Luigi Coluccio, Franz Engstler, Andrew Morrow, and also Ivan Velasco Sanchez. They've all pushed their cars just over the white line a little bit too much, and that is picked up by Claudio Garavini, who is our race director in the Ferrari Challenge, who rules the roost with a rod of iron. And of course, in qualifying sessions, Nico, you don't get a track limits warning, you get that particular lap time deleted. So all the hard work and all the effort that you have done and built in that lap, you lose it all.
Yeah, and losing it all, not all, but losing this lap certainly is Federico Alrifai, because he came up on several cars, including the Marcos Zanazzi car, and they were preparing themselves to go into the chicane, and you know, nobody's trying to be obnoxious and be in the way, but when you're in your own race or qualifying and going through your own progression and trying to set a lap time, you're not going to move out of the way and say, yeah, okay, I forget my race, because you can have yours. It's just part of it, and the track position is very crucial. There is James Owen.
Yes, the Meridian Modena driver for Engstler Motorsport, James Owen then. Currently 15th, but as you can see, personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2, so he's pushing very, very hard and wants to fight his way up the virtual grid, ready for Sunday's race. This is what we are qualifying for right now. He's into the final turn. Let's see if it's an improvement on his previous best time, which sees him P15 within class. We expect to see James further up the order, and, well, he certainly delivers with a gain of some 7 places up to P8. So it's Federico Alrifai who is quickest. We are expecting some blistering times from this driver, Emil Fries Racing's Giacomo Altoe.
Indeed, he has proven his speed and his racecraft all through the season, and he is finishing this lap. This is not going to trouble anybody at the very sharp end of the grid. As you can see, he balls up to P22, but this now is what he has prepared on the previous lap. We put the time onto the graphics, and it's the running clock as we watch Giacomo Altoe take a fairly narrow line through turn number 1, then through this very, very, almost like an eternity left-hander, and it's still not over, and then it closes in at the end before you finally release the steering and go with a right-hander and then out onto that very first short straight after that first sequence of turns.
Well, you can see him being chased by Philip Barron. Andreas Berg Sorensen, unfortunately, getting caught up by both of them. And that's going to compromise both their laps, Nico. Whatever anyone tries to do in terms of get out of your way, which Andreas Berg Sorensen did do, it still impacts on your lap, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't just make your car disappear into thin air, Nico.
No, you can't, and I mean, it's all part of racing at the end of the day. Now, you want to be in the way? No. Can you avoid it? Sometimes. Can you help it if you can't? No. So, and you know, from a driver's point of view, each of them have been caught out by traffic so many times in the past. You feel like, you know, some you win, some you gain, some you lose, and some you're just an innocent bystander in. But in any event, neither Giacomo Altoe nor Philip Barron were able to do anything significant about their positioning on the previous attempt. Trying to change his position as Klaus Branson. He's already moved up into P4 in class, considering his classmate, if you will, Federico Alrifa, is leading overall. That's certainly going to be part of the ambition for Klaus Branson. Is not quite there yet, half a second off that pace, but again, he's slowly but steadily improving.
He was certainly very, very aggressive through the chicane, deciding that he was going to take as much out of it as he possibly could within the realms of track limit legality. And did it work for him? Well, yes, it did. It moves him up a further place, Nico. He is now P3 in class. So well done to Klaus Branson, who posts a 158.954. We're on board with the Mertel Motorsport driver right now that we are expecting big things from. Luca Ludwig, who has put it P3 in Trofeo Pirelli. But we have two Pirelli AM drivers right at the sharp end of this qualifying session, Nico, in terms of posting times that are hugely competitive and well within the realms of Pirelli drivers as well. And that's from Federico Alrifa and Hendrik Viol.
Definitely, and Ben Savalent, he is going quick. Philip Barron is now going quick. Giacomo Altoe is going quick. So it's now the wave of the Pirelli drivers trying to make good on their class affiliation and trying to move up the order. Luca Ludwig, he's still in the first sector, so no split time from him yet, but he is getting there. He's about 4 seconds away from that. There comes the timing line, and the first sector is indeed colored purple with quarter of a second to the good.
I was actually watching the color bars on his display on his dashboard, and I could see the purple for the sector. And if he can maintain that through Sector 2 and Sector 3, well, Giacomo Altoe is ahead of him on the track, and Giacomo Altoe has posted certainly a quicker than anyone through Sector 2 as well as Sector 1. So, purple sector's coming from the driver of the number 2 car for Emil Frey Racing, and that is heaved across the line by Giacomo Altoe to give us, I said, are we going to get times into the 157s? Well, at almost the same time, both Philippe Barron and Giacomo Altoe posted times in the 57s. Giacomo Altoe very nearly into the 56s. Here is Luca Ludwig, personal best Sector 1, personal best Sector 2. Is this going to be enough to trouble Giacomo Altoe? Maybe not, but it's going to be a jolly good time from Luca Ludwig. He goes second fastest with a 157.367, so he's around about 3/10 down on the time posted by Giacomo Altoe. All of a sudden, Nico, we've got 3 drivers in the 57s, and it's not beyond expectations to see one of our Trofeo Pirelli or Pirelli AM drivers into the 56s.
Yeah, for sure. And Luca Ludwig, this was just his 4th lap of this session, so he's still fairly early in his progression. So his time, as obviously those of his competitors, certainly bear watching. Luca Ludwig, he took the pole position in qualifying 1 earlier. Quite a different condition of the tarmac, but Luca knows this track inside out.
Absolutely.
He's raced here so many times on the Nordschleife, on the Grand Prix track, and various forms and configurations. So he has raced on pretty much any weather condition that the Nürburgring has to offer. Giacomo Altoe on this time around with a good time, but not one that troubles his own personal best, but neither for Luca Ludwig or Philip Barron. And with 5 minutes remaining, it's getting late early. It feels like there's only maybe 2 or 3 more attempts at cracking pole position for all of those drivers. Currently, that honor goes the way of Giacomo Altoe.
So Giacomo rounds the final turn. This, as Nico has predicted, is not going to be a lap time that troubles him, or troubles the time he's set previously. He's a 1/10.5 down. This is the one where he will go again. So Giacomo Altoe with relatively clear track ahead of him, I think. And this is how he is bouncing the 296 Challenge car across the curbs. A 157.083 from Giacomo Altoe. Inside the garages then, and you can see the tension is almost as great inside the garages as presumably it is inside the car for the driver. It's Giacomo Altoe from Luca Ludwig and Philip Barron. Remaining the best of the AM drivers is Federico Alrifai ahead of Hendrik Viol, who's brought his car into the pit lane and therefore is not going to be going again, but so too is Federico Alrifai. So too, actually, for that matter, has Klaus Branson. So the front runners, Nico, in terms of Pirelli AM drivers, have all brought their cars into the pit lane with under 4 minutes remaining. I'm tempted to say they're not going to come out again.
Yeah, that is true. With less than 4 minutes, I don't think that there is any question. And Federico Alrifai, I mean, he has quite a margin, 3/10 almost over Hendrik Viol, and almost a full second over Klaus Branson. The streaking, almost invincible over the last 5 races, Klaus Branson, and I mean, that is an achievement in itself.
Luca Ludwig here is coasting the car around, and he will set it up for the next lap. So this is not a hugely fast lap from Luca Ludwig, quite deliberately on his part, I would suggest. Starting to build the speed now through this kink here. More than a kink, it's a full right-hander. I was at the wrong part of the track. But now he begins to build. So he's building for the next lap, Nico. The Mertel Motorsport driver who, as you said, he knows every centimetre of tarmac of the Grand Prix track which we're on, of the sprint track which we're not on, and of the Nordschleife which he would, like many of the drivers, love to be on. You know, it's Nürburgring, it's part of its legend, isn't it? But the Grand Prix track offers some supreme racing, and this is Max Mugelli then, who is currently P5 within the class, ahead of Luigi Coluccio and Angelo Fontana. I beg your pardon, Dylan Medler and Luigi Coluccio. And this is Armin Arifpour, I believe, the Riller and Schnaut driver. So Giacomo Altoe, Luca Ludwig, the sharp end of the Trofeo Pirelli qualifying, with just 2 minutes remaining now in this qualifying session. Who can do what from where? Who's can improve? Well, we've got a number of cars in the pit lane, Nico, so that paradoxically helps some drivers, of course, because it makes more tarmac available to them.
Yeah, and I was thinking that if maybe Luca Ludwig, maybe he will come into the pits, and indeed he has come into the pits, and that probably means that there is only a theoretical chance that Giacomo Altoe will be unseated from the pole position. Certainly doesn't look like anybody is on a trajectory. So unlike in the morning where the track really came to the drivers and improved minute by minute, second by second, sector by sector, and it was, as we said, the last quick driver across the line was going to be the one who would take pole position, which was Luca Ludwig. But it's not the same this afternoon. It feels like it has peaked, and Giacomo Altoe was there when it was the best, and he made the most of the opportunity, of course, and with just under 3/10 to the good of Luca Ludwig, he seems set to be our pole setter.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. You're right, the track is not evolving, so you go through the kink, taking full chat flat along the back straight here. Giacomo Altoe has done enough. How many laps has Giacomo done? 9 laps. Tell you what, Nico, Luca is going to have a 3-lap tyre longevity advantage over Giacomo in Sunday's race, because Luca Ludwig only did 6 laps. Who's done the most? Max Mugelli, actually, 13 laps in his car as Luca Ludwig walks away from his car now. He clearly believes that the 157.367 was the very best delta that he could take from the car. Giacomo Altoe is going again, which I think is, from a risk-reward point of view, is when his nearest competitor is out and in the pit lane, not sure that he needed to do this, but...
Yeah, equally he is... I don't think he is really stressing the tires too much. And talking about laps, I mean, Luca Ludwig, for the most part, over the last 2 laps, he didn't do that either.
No.
So the... although it looks like Giacomo Altoe is still going fairly quickly. So
I agree with that.
Maybe he has a bet on a 156 time that he still needs to make good on. Although, well,
going into this, you know, I wasn't absolutely convinced we'd see times in the 57s.
No, but we've been corrected, but no, this is not an improvement.
No.
It's almost a second down. So I think essentially we can consider this qualifying result that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen to be pretty much final.
Car number 9 Danilo Del Favero, who finished P6 in qualifying. Ahead of Andreas Berg Sorensen as we look at those running from P6 down. Then it was Marco Zanassi, Andrew Morrow. Quite a different flavour to the qualifying this afternoon from that we had this morning. So well done to all the drivers out there doing what they can to give themselves the best possible grid position for their race 2 on Sunday. Welcome to the Ferrari Racing Days. If you are just joining us here at the Nürburgring, where we've just enjoyed qualifying from our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Big thumbs up then from the Emil Ferrari Racing team. Out jumps Federico Alrifi. What a find he has been, Nico, this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, let's give a shout out to the team as well. Obviously, they engineer the car, so they play their part, but he has really made the most of what the team has given him. Absolutely.
Very nice thing to have. He gains another point on his really rather remarkable points tally for 2024. Certainly shook the fillings in his teeth as he went through the chicane at the Nürburgring. There you can see him having to just dial in a little bit of opposite lock to hold on to the car. So Altoe from Ludwig from Baron. And there you can see Giacomo making his way out of the car and is congratulated by the team. He's very pleased with that P1, and as I say, full classification, it's on screen now. Giacomo Altoe P1, Luca Ludwig P2, Philip Baron P3. Best of the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, Federico Alrifi P4 overall, but P1 within class. Then it was Ben Svelint, Hendrik Viol, Max Mugelli, Klaus Zibranson, Dylan Medler, Luigi Coluccio. They occupy the top 10 positions overall, and bear in mind, a lot of cars out there on track. Then it was Angelo Fontana ahead of Danilo Del Favero, Andreas Berg Sorensen, Marco Zanassi, Andrew Morrow, Michael Verhagen, Hanno Laskowski, and then we saw James Owen and Axel Sartigan, P17, 18 and 19, ahead of Herbert Geis, Franz Engstler, David Akabadze, Ivan Valesco Sanchez, Matthias Thoman, Otto Blank, and Amen Arefbor. There we have it. Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli qualifying 2 for race 2 on Sunday is completed, and well done to this young man, Giacomo Altoe, as he is presented with his Rotiform Pole Position Award, which looks resplendent, and Giacomo poses for the focus of all the media, of course. Every bit the racing star that he is. Rotiform Golden Wheel.
There you go.
Remarkable. Thank you for watching Trofeo Pirelli qualifying from Nico and from myself. We look forward to seeing you for our next qualifying session and, of course, the races to come over the weekend. Bye-bye.
Lagerstand ist. Wenn ich mir mal das Qualifying von heute Morgen noch mal vor meinem geistigen Auge Revue passieren lasse, dann war es ein harter Kampf zwischen Uri Assid und Ernest Kirchmeier, dem Franzosen und dem Österreicher, die nicht weit voneinander weg waren, genau 75.000 Sekunden. Sie fahren beide für das Haus Kessel Racing aus der Schweiz. Andrzej Lewandowski in diesem Rennen, an diesem Wochenende hier zum ersten Mal in der Ferrari Challenge unterwegs ist, der Trofeo Pirelli. Er hat die dritte Zeit gefahren, war hier noch Ende Juli bei Lamborghini bei der Super Trofeo sehr erfolgreich. Der Super Trofeo Lamborghini sowieso immer sehr erfolgreich. Also echt was drauf. Übrigens mit dir nochmal gerade die Strecke mit wenig von Schutz dabei. Die Qualifying geht nur mal so am Rande. Und Manuela Costa, Federico Reparto, Große Ram unterwegs, die zweitplatzierte in der Meisterschaft hinter Uri Assid. Die hat gekämpft, aber die ist dann nicht ganz nach vorne gekommen, haben wir letztendlich, ja, schlappe 0,34 Sekunden gefehlt, 0,34 Sekunden, das heißt 0,35 Sekunden. Vielleicht kann man wieder Costa hier Assid jetzt eher helfen, dass müssen fast schon die Lichter eingeschaltet werden, weil es wird dann doch ein bisschen dunkler hier oben auf dem Nürburgring, ohne hier in tiefer hängenden Wolken, aber wir sind tiefer hängende Wolken, lieber als der Nebel, der heute bis heute mit hier war. Von daher alles okay. Wir schauen uns mal die Gesamtwertung an, zunächst der Coppa Shell. Und da ist es, ich sprach davon, Uri Assid, der Franzose, mit der Startnummer 167. Er führt 44 Punkte vor Manuela Costa, der hat die 193. Und der drittplatzierte, das ist Tibor Malin, der mit der 132 unterwegs ist und der im Training bzw. im Qualifying Ende des Tages fallen wir dann nicht das Motto hin, das zum Ende des Qualifyings oder zum letzten Qualifying, dem ersten Qualifying unterwegs gewesen ist. Tibor Malin auf der 12. Position war er nicht mehr zufrieden, mit Sicherheit nicht. Er liegt auf der dritten Position, John Dill, der
Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the Nürburgring. This is Ferrari Challenge and it's part of Ferrari Racing Days here in Germany, round 6 of our Challenge 2024 calendar. And we're about to welcome our Coppa Shell drivers and our 488 Challenge drivers out on track for their qualifying session for race 2. Race 2 being on Sunday. As you can see, it is round 6 here at the Nürburgring. We've come here from the south of France, where the weather conditions were altogether different to what we were experiencing here in Germany. And from here we go to the Finale Mondiale, which is being held this year, the World Finals, the final round at Imola in the Emilia-Romagna region of Germany. So under the watchful eye of the Nürburgring Castle then, and these images taken when the sun shone, and it has shone across the days that we have been here, and we're hoping that the sun will shine tomorrow for race day 1. We will see who will do what in qualifying and who will give us pole position for each of the categories. 2 categories racing, or qualifying I should say, Shell drivers and 488 drivers. Track temperature 26 degrees, air temperature 18 degrees, and about 5 kilometers per hour of fluttering wind. That's about the size of it. And the track is very undulating because it's making its way through the really rather lovely region of Germany that the Eifel is, and it's 5.1 kilometers long and contains 15 turns. 6 of them are left and 9 of them are right-handers, which you can't see terribly well, I'm sorry to say, as the gremlins, there they go, gremlins sorted. And there you can see the track. We use the Grand Prix configuration. There are a number of configurations of this circuit here at the Nürburgring, the Sprint, the GP, and of course the full, however many kilometers it is, Nordschleife, which my colleague alongside me, Nico, will give me a better indication of just how many kilometers the Nordschleife is, but we won't be using that. We're sticking to the 5.1 kilometers as opposed to the
20.832 kilometers. If you only count the Nordschleife, obviously there are different combinations with the Grand Prix circuit, so it can be longer, and that means whether it's the NLS, the Nürburgring 24 hours, or some other races, various configurations, and thus track lengths are possible.
Sorry, I really rather threw that at you, and you did very well at your encyclopedic knowledge, and not only your encyclopedic knowledge, your seemingly instant recall of facts that are critical to us.
Yeah, absolutely. All known by heart, because why wouldn't you? The Nürburgring is host to the Ferrari Racing Days here, and we only exclusively use the Grand Prix circuit, the long version, and that means we don't go through all the hills and the undulation of the Nordschleife, but it's still quite undulating on the Grand Prix circuit as well.
It is.
And going down one of those hills and towards the hairpin is the Fons Skeltmar car, and I spoke to him over lunch, and he said to me, you know, I'm coming along, and we agreed, I on his behalf and he on his own behalf, that the podium for the end of the season for him would be nice, because P4 is the best that he has done thus far, and it would be hugely out of character to not have at least one podium across the season. He has already done that.
I spoke to John Dillon at lunch, and the Great Ball Nottingham driver. He had a better lap in him. I think he finished P4 from the qualifying session earlier on. He had a better lap in him, and unfortunately just got caught out by traffic. So John will be hoping to right the wrongs of earlier on when it comes to his qualifying for race 2. And it's nice when you get inside the cars, as we're doing here, Nico. And just before we get inside the car, the fine figure of one Mr. T. Lindroth, with his driver coach to his left-hand side, which is Fabian Volvend, who knows a thing or two about Ferrari Challenge racing and about Ferrari Challenge winning, Nico.
Absolutely.
And if anyone knows the Nürburgring, Fabienne does as well. She's raced in many endurance races here, I seem to recall, and of course has raced in the Ferrari Challenge and been hugely successful. Very talented young driver is Fabienne, as is Tommy, although the young would perhaps have to be in brackets.
Is all relative. But in one event, in any event, the two are a formidable combination in terms of driver and coach. Fabienne certainly has helped Tommy hone his racecraft even more and get the best results out of him on a very consistent basis. Also, a very, very welcome figure in the paddock is the driver of the car with the number 240 who we're watching is Pino Frascaro.
He is one of the enigmatic characters in the Ferrari Challenge, isn't he? And his wife, Mrs. Pino, as I call her. They are truly lovely people, and Pino really enjoying his racing in one of the 488 cars. And of course, Nico, with just this and the Finale Mondiale to come, it's kind of the last hurrah for the 488 Challenge Evo cars, which are also competing in this qualifying session. These cars, which have served us so well in the Ferrari Challenge, are making way, if you will, for the 296s, which we see in the Shell drivers, or with the Shell drivers in this very same qualifying session. And when it comes to the race tomorrow, they'll be out together, but of course they'll be categorized completely differently. The 488 drivers drive with the blue strip across the top of the windscreen. The Shell drivers drive with the yellow strip across the top of their windscreen. And Pino Frascaro is going very well at the moment, and may well set the fastest time for the 488s at this early stage of qualifying. So we wish him well as he continues on his way. He's closed Sector 1 quicker than anyone, which is frankly no surprise, because there's only a few cars out there on track that have got anywhere near around the lap that he has. So Pino Frascaro then, who in the 240 car, he's had a couple of podiums and a couple of well-deserved podiums this season, and he'd love to take some more of those across the two races that he will contest here at the Nürburgring this weekend. Brake discs light up as he brakes heavily into the chicane. Very neat and tidy through the chicane, not taking a ridiculous amount of curb, which, you know, provides terrible excitement for us. But it isn't necessarily the quickest way through that chicane, Nico. You and I have researched this quite dramatically over the course of the qualifying sessions that we've seen, and indeed during a break earlier I took my bicycle around just to ascertain which would be the quick. I really didn't. I wouldn't be allowed anywhere near. But when it comes to quick people, Henri Assy, Nico, proved how quick he was earlier on in the qualifying 1 session, which set the grid for race 1 to come tomorrow. And Henri Acid has had a remarkable season. 4 wins, I think, at last count. In addition to that, a further 4 podiums. He's chosen to come into the pit lane, so we're not going to see an initial pole-sitting time from him because he's not going to be out there. Von Skeltermayer is the quickest so far with Andreas Rizzi, P2. Sven Schomer and Faisal Shahir and Nels Branson are the top 3 in the 488s. And this is Sven Schomer that we are watching right now, resplendent in yellow in the 275 car, which is engineered by Ferrari Katowice from Poland.
Absolutely. And to finish the thought on Henri Acid, he did claim pole position for the Saturday race earlier today, but it was a very slim margin, only 75 1,000ths over Ernst Kirchmeier. And in the 488s, to round out that, it was Alexei Komarov who took pole position. So those are 2 pole setters for tomorrow. We look for the counterparts for Sunday.
I spoke to Alexei Komarov after the session. He was very pleased with that. He felt he'd got the pace. And, yeah, he was just delighted to be able to do that when, in fairness, Nico, we have one of the strongest grids of the 488 Challenge cars that we've seen this season. So he had some stiff competition and he delivered when it mattered most. And also delivering when it matters most is Von Skeltermayer at the moment. With just under 23 minutes of the session remaining, he has posted a 2:03.218, which is a full 2.2 seconds quicker than the man that is chasing him, which is Ken Abe at the moment. So we do expect the times to probably come down significantly as the session runs because they get the heat into the tires. As just a little bit more rubber is laid down on the tarmac. 2:03.2 is probably not the time that will set the pole position eventually at the end of the session. We'll see. So the Kessel Racing driver accelerates out of that turn. Von Skeltermayer is one of the longest serving Ferrari Challenge competitors and still gets as much joy out of it today as he ever did.
Yeah, I think that is very fair. And the Ferrari family, as we always say, really is that for him. And it's not only about the racing, it's about the camaraderie and the people around it. And that is a big part of the appeal. And he really enjoys coming to the events. Hasn't enjoyed the results as much, but as we said, he is working on that. And thus far, he has not set a real wrong and resides in P1, is trying to stretch his current lead even further.
I think it's fair to say, and I think you caught up with this in conversation with him, that most drivers have fallen into the 296 Challenge car like a duck to water. It's taken Fons a little bit longer just to get the maximum out of this car. It's a very different car to the 488 Challenge. There are a lot of intricacies to this 296, which for the most part the drivers absolutely love. I just think with Fons, it's just taken them a little bit longer to find that sweet spot.
Yeah, I think that is fair, and he would be the first to agree with that. And you know, different cars, different driving styles mesh initially, and with some, it just needs to be a little bit more of a honeymoon process. I think when you're on honeymoon, you already know each other, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Michael Martin with purple sectors, but I do think that the way he went through the chicane wasn't quite orthodox, and
He did improve.
maybe we'll see if a TL appears on the timing screen and therefore indicates that, yeah, indeed, there it is. And I'm sorry to say that lap therefore has been disallowed. There you can see the Von Skeltermayer car in close-up fashion.
With new Pirelli rubber going on. So Fons obviously feels he's optimizing. And with new rubber, he will be able to go even quicker than the 2:03.218 that he has set, which gives him provisional P1. He makes sure that the belts are absolutely rock solid tight. Safety is of paramount importance in the Ferrari Challenge. And here we can see Thomas Gosner just weaving a little bit from side to side. That's not because he was doing that for any entertainment purposes. He was doing it for warming up the tires and brakes purposes. Thomas Gosner for CDP MP Racing. He's gone quicker than anyone through Sector 1. So already von Skelterman's 2:03.218 is potentially under threat, Nico, by Thomas Gostner, who we know can be hugely competitive. He's been relatively quiet by Thomas Gostner's standards this year, if I can say that, with only one podium to his name, which you would never go into a Ferrari Challenge season without suggesting that Thomas is always going to be there or thereabouts. And as he crosses the timing line now, he's more than there or thereabouts, because he has gone 3.5 tenths quicker than von Skelterman with a 2:02.865.
Yeah, he did lose a little bit of time in the final sector, and I dare say this is part of why that happened. It's a little bit the kangaroo-style approach to this chicane. Thomas made it work, but I think the fact that he had 7 tenths after 2 sectors and just 3.5 tenths come the finish line had something to do with the way that he took those turns, but still he's got the pace in the car, and he has the provisional pole position, and
not no more.
that changes at this very moment as Michael Martin takes a 2:01.714 provisional pole time, puts it next to his name, and continues on his way. Let's see if he will push again right away, or if he gives it a little bit of a rest, not overstress the tires immediately, but I rather think that he is going again right away.
There are some top-class drivers that we've not seen meaningful times from yet. They include Motohiko Isazaki, James Weiland, Alexander Nussbaumer, John Dillon, Andrzej Lewandowski, Henri Acid, Manuela Gostner, and Friedrich Müller. They're all yet to post meaningful lap times, so still a lot of action to come over the remaining 17.5 minutes, or 17.75 minutes of this qualifying session. We're live from the Nürburgring in the Eifel region of Germany for Ferrari Racing Days and Ferrari Challenge Round 6, with Michael Martin not improving through Sector 1. It is Michael Martin P1 from Thomas Gostner and von Skelterman, who sat at the top of the table for a long time. Now, the best of the 488 drivers is Sven Schirmer, ahead of Pino Frascaro and Faisal Shayer, and then Tommy Lindroth. Now, here is Thomas Gostner.
Thomas is finishing his lap, and by a very slim margin he takes P1 away, snatches that from Michael Martin, and that elevates the CDP MP Racing driver to the top of the standings. We're 17 minutes away from the end of the session. Thomas Loeffler also joins the front runners, putting his car into P4. But as you say, there is still a lot of names buried down on our timing screen and no time adjacent to it. So that means we have John Dillon, Henry Assi, Manuela Gostner, Alexander Nussbaumer, James Weiland, Motohiko Isazaki, all of which we would figure to play a role when it comes to top 10 positions. And you said it, Thomas Gostner only one podium position. It's just a testament to how competitive, how balanced the season has been, and how balanced the competition in the Coppa shell particularly, but all across the Ferrari Challenge really is.
Big shout out to Ray Acosta. Here he is in the 107 car. Now, he's currently 4th fastest, and he's going even quicker. Ray Acosta podiumed in Sonoma. He represents the collection and Ferrari of Miami, and races here in Europe as well as in North America too. Flashing his lights furiously because he's got traffic coming up, and well, the traffic does not necessarily indicate left and get out of his way, which means Sector 2 has been compromised for Ray. He was on a really good trajectory. Now he'll try and build up through Sector 3, but Sector 3 is the shortest sector, and I'm sorry to say this is probably not going to be an improvement for Ray Acosta. It isn't, by 8 tenths, so he will go again. It's Michael Martin from Thomas Gostner, from a very good showing from Thomas Loeffler, who is P3. For our 488 drivers, it remains Sven Schirmer, Faisal Shayer, and Tommy Lindroth, Nico.
Absolutely. Thomas Gostner just put in another very quick lap time and has extended his lead, but other drivers are vying for that top spot as well. As we take a look at Thomas Gostner going through turn 1, a turn that we've spoken about already today in other qualifying sessions. It's very tricky to get it absolutely perfect. And that is in qualifying when you're not having other cars battling for position alongside.
Fair point.
It gets extremely tricky when we get to the races tomorrow and the start of the races, when you've got someone alongside you, ideally no one ahead of you, but certainly drivers behind you. So it really, really becomes difficult to find your spot on the track and make sure that no other car is in the same spot that you want to be.
Thomas Gosner's P1 has been usurped by Tibor Valent, the driver from Ferrari Budapest Rosso Corsa, who has delivered a 2:00.942. Nico, are we going to see a time sub 2 minutes? And is Ray Acosta going to be the driver to deliver that for the first time? It's possible, because Sector 1 is purple for Ray Acosta from the collection. Ferrari driver of some repute is Ray Acosta. Another one of the enigmatic characters in the Ferrari paddock. I suspect that Ray will be racing in Indianapolis just next weekend as he brakes hard now into the chicane. And through there, if you were watching closely, he was clean, calm and collected. He just kissed the apex of the curbs, but he didn't run over the curbs. Is that going to pay dividends for the Miami-based driver as he heads towards the timing line now? Ray Acosta goes P2. I really built that the best I could, and he was a 10th and 3/4 down from taking the pole position away from Tibor Valent.
Yeah, indeed, and there was no obvious reason for him to lose time, but you know, sometimes little things that we don't quite make out with the naked eye. Tibor Valent, he is another one. He's quick, and entering the final sector, he too is on a trajectory to challenge or potentially upstage the current pole time, and that would be his own pole time.
Yes.
So he would be happy with that progression. It's the 2:00 9:42, and it's now a 2:00 7:55. Is it going to be a 1:59 at the end of the session? It might be close, but we will find out.
I think so, and the reason I think so is because we've not seen the time yet from Henri Acide. Sorry, that makes it sound like I'm convinced that Henri Acide is going to deliver, or it could be Manuel Gosner, it could be John Dillon, it could be Ernst Kirchmeier. We've still got a number of drivers that we're expecting to see times from, and Alexander Nussbaumer could be another one of those. On fine form, Alexander Nussbaumer can deliver. There is no question about that. He's had a win this season. He's had another couple of podiums, and Alexander Nussbaumer, well, at the moment, Nico, it wouldn't be enough for him to go just under the 2s, because I think he was not quite enough tenths up, but let's see what he does. It's certainly going to be an improvement from where he is in qualifying at the moment, as Andreas Rizzi now gets us ever closer to the sub 2 minute time, and Alexander Nussbaumer vaults up to P4. Jim Wyland has gone quicker as well. He's now gone to the 2nd place in the qualifying. We are a 10th and a bit away from getting a sub 2 minute time, Nico.
Yeah, we're about 11.5 minutes away from the end of the session, or the checkered flag coming out. And as you said, there is still a number of drivers who haven't given us meaningful or really competitive lap time. So there is still a cushion, I would say, and I wouldn't argue with the fact that it will likely be a 1:59 time, but you never, ever know. So for the time being, Andreas Rizzi has done everything that he needed to do and put it into P1, James Wyland in P2, and we await the next wave of good lap times.
Through the chicane. I think that cool, calm and collected through that chicane seems to work best, but what do I know? I'm not out there pedaling one of the cars like Andrzej Lewandowski is doing, and he's done personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2, and he crosses the timing line now and goes 3rd fastest, Nico.
Indeed, and another very, very good and impressive showing from the Polish driver, new to the Ferrari Challenge. Dives fairly deep here into the corner. Manuela Gosner, she hasn't had it all his own way in qualifying 1, and certainly not in qualifying 2, but she's got 10 minutes of change to do something about it. First sector is a personal best. Color scheme really fits with of the car, really fits with this color scheme on our timing screen. She would like to add the purple to it if she could, and well, it's a personal best as well, so she's trying to move herself up the order, but it's not going to be the lap that she wants probably at the end of the session. not really seeing any purple sectors for the time being. So is this the calm before the storm, and we really
I rather think it might be.
get the launch for the number 1 spot? Let's see where Manu Gostner slots in at the end of this lap, and it's a respectable P6, but by her own standards, it's nothing more than respectable.
Yes, it was a 9-place advancement, but as you quite rightly say, her expectations will be greater than that. Here's Ray Acosta once again in the 107 car, the colour scheme on his 296, then paying homage, of course, to the fantastic Ferrari hypercar. As we take a look also at the 488 challenge with Ferrari Katowice driver Sven Schirmer going quickest ahead of Friedrich Müller and Faisal Shayer. Whoa! And Thibaut Valent really had to dive out of that, Nico.
Yeah, and obviously we can see how quick the 296 cars are in relation to the 488s. They're just a different evolution. And yeah, I don't think that this lap was the one for Thibaut Valent to challenge for top positions, but certainly it's no longer. And now he's trying to reset himself and get back ready and put the throttle down for the next lap. 8.5 minutes remaining. We watch what's going on. There is one driver who we haven't really seen in this session, and we've seen a lot of him this season, and most of it was extremely good.
Yes, Henri Assi then in that orange, black, white car from Kessel Racing has had a very good season indeed. 4 wins, a number of podium places as well. Sees him in a very good position in the Drivers' Championship for the Coppa Shell class. And you can just feel the body language of the car that Henri is building this. And yeah, it's always a gamble, Nico, when you leave it to the final stages of the qualifying session, because, you know, we have known qualifying sessions to be suspended. You only need a yellow flag in one part where you've got to be seen to slow down, you know, and you've not put a meaningful lap time on the board and banked one. Henri Assi has decided to take that gamble and goes for it right now, I would suggest.
Indeed, yeah, and you know, it can be a disaster like a yellow flag or a red flag that you have to go through the entire progression again, but it can just be traffic and you run out of opportunities, you run out of laps. You could still go quicker, but the checkered flag is out, and that is always the risk. Andrzej Lewandowski, he is going again, currently P3, but his first sector time certainly very quick. I think that was just opportune enough to not cost him too much time through that.
Yep.
But we will see what the timing screen says about that. Disagrees, I think. Tries to make up for that by being very aggressive with the chicane. We will see if that did the trick. But
I don't think so.
I mean, P3, very respectable for him. But he had more in that lap. I think he feels like it, and I would tend to agree. You can see with all that what happened, still only 2/10 down.
He will go again, but of course he's taking another lap out of his tyres. Here comes John Dillon, personal best, Sector 1 and Sector 2. P15 is certainly not where we expect to see the Great Ball Nottingham driver. Has he got it all hooked up on this lap? I think traffic won't impact him now as he rounds the final turn, and he will head for the timing line. John Dillon accelerates away in his Ferrari Challenge 296 car and heads towards the timing beam and goes P1. And the first driver to give us a 1:59. Well done, John Dillon, 1:59.937. That just proved the point, Nico. You don't have to colour every sector purple. He had 2 personal bests and 1 overall best. His driver coach, Matt Griffin, himself a very talented driver, will be on the radio saying, well done, JD, a 1:59.937.
Absolutely, and it was the final sector that really did it. He was there or thereabouts, but he wasn't leading. And I think he gained like 4/10 over that final sector, which is not a long sector, but it does include the chicane, it does include the final turn, and he absolutely nailed those. Manu Gostner, P7, no improvement for the time being, and we're down to 5 minutes remaining. Ernst Kirchmeier, who is in the pit lane, he was P2 in the qualifying number 1. He is dead last. So whatever it is, he is not putting it together here. Which is a great shame for the Austrian driver. He, in fairness, is not fighting for the overall championship, but he's always a very competitive and very good entry. And he's not figuring in this session.
Well, we can see Andrzej Lewandowski is really pushing. John Dillon is pushing once again, Nico. He's gone even quicker through Sector 1. We've got 4.5 minutes remaining in this session. We pick up on the 151 car of Great Paul Nottingham then, as John Dillon then propels this car around the 5.114 kilometers of the GP circuit here at the Nürburgring. In the dim and distant, you can see he has got traffic, but I think it's far enough away that it shouldn't impact John's trajectory through this. Sector 2 wasn't where he needed it to be, truthfully, but Sector 1 was a really, really good Sector 1. Turns through the final turn, and we're getting to the sharp end of this qualifying. Does he improve on his previous best time? The answer is no.
No, but it would have been a tough ask given how good his previous attempt at the final sector was, and that's something that Henry Hassid will have to contend with. He is now approaching the timing line, 4.5 tenths. That is really, really good. But remember, the final sector from John Dillon was an outstanding one. So Henry Hassid will not be able to relax. He has to push because that is a solid margin, but it's not invincible. John Dillon leading, no longer Henry Hassid, but he lost 3 tenths on the final sector, which just goes to show how good that final sector is. And John Dillon, if he can put the first 2 sectors in a similar way that like he did the last time, he has a chance at this pole position. We're 3 minutes away from the checkered flag coming out. The drama is building.
It is building, and it's reaching the crescendo right at the end of the session, as we expected. Split time from John Dillon is up, Nico, is it not? He's taken time out of Sector 1.
Absolutely, and a very, very good, almost 3 tenths to the good. Now the track is evolving. The drivers who left it very late, then their tires, their brakes are now coming into their own. So we said it before in an earlier session, the last across the line may be the pole sitter. This may just apply to this session, but you have to pedal the car. Let's see where John Dillon is come the end of this 2 straights with a little kink in between. He's just a few seconds away from the split time. He lost some time in the middle sector. That is unfortunate.
It is, and he's got traffic ahead of him now, but he will cross the timing line, and if he can dispose of the 488 car that is there and build himself back up again, he can certainly, this is going to be a real fight between John Dillon and Henry Hassid for P1. I think you're right, Nico. I think it's going to be the driver that crosses the line last. And I think Henry Hassid, where are we?
Yeah, he will be the last. He will be the
last, won't he?
I'm just concerned whether John Dillon, in his attempt to go around the Faisal car on the outside, might not have had the same momentum coming across the line that he would have had otherwise.
Yeah, perhaps.
It's all academic. We don't know it. Henry Hassid, for the time being, he looks like the man who is...
Because he didn't improve on that lap.
Yeah, he's also on favorite. However, let's see where John Dillon's first sector time, when that comes in. We will have some indication. The Great Paul Nottingham driver, I mean, whatever the outcome, he's really, really showing that he is on his mettle again. He had a great Portimao weekend. Wasn't quite up to the same speed at Le Castellet the last time around. Didn't have the same results, but he's right back on it. In the first sector, only 0.5 tenths down. So he is, in spite of the issues through the final turn, he is still competitive and he's still pushing.
Here's Alexander Nussbaumer then. Sector 1 and Sector 2 are dark greys. That doesn't necessarily mean that he won't move up the order. He's currently P7 for Go Motorsport Haupt Racing Team. His team boss, Manuel Reuter, will be on the radio to him saying, push, Alexander, push. And by pushing, he has gained a place and moved up to P6, Nico. And he can go again. He can put another lap in. Here is Henry Hassid then. Sector 1 is purple. So your suggestion that the last driver out, now assuming he's got clear tarmac ahead of him, which the Kessel team will have tried to give him, I think it could be Henry Hassid. Oh, but he got very sideways then. And when you're sideways, you're scrubbing speed. You're not going in a forward direction.
Yeah, that is true, absolutely. But John Dillon's second sector and final sector were not competitive enough. You can see the checkered flag symbol next to his name, so that means he is not going to attack Henry Hassid on this quali session anymore. Manu Gostner,
Henry's
meanwhile...
bailed the lap as well, Nico.
Absolutely, yeah, he knows. But Manu Gostner with a very good first sector, her best thus far. A 10th.5 down on the Henry Hassid time. Maybe not an attempt for pole position. Well, attempt certainly, but maybe not a candidate for pole, but certainly an attempt to move up from P9. And Manu Gostner, remember, she's still very much in the championship fight, so any further improvement will be significant for her.
So here comes Manu, then the Ineco Ripata Corsa Ram driver, then heading towards the chicane. I think just under 5/10 down on the Henry Hassid time. However, this would vault her up the order from P9. There's her driver coach, Giorgio Sonagiotto, watching on as well as we split the screen. And Manu Gostner heads for home. And the timing beam is broken. And Manuela Gostner has done enough to move up to P6. It's perhaps not quite where we expected that to be, Nico.
No, I don't think that she's quite at one with the car, or maybe the team and her just didn't quite manage to set the car up perfectly for her preferences. I mean, still a good...
Nussbaumer moves up 2 places in the final knock-ins, forgive me.
Absolutely, and thereby drops Manu Gostner back down onto the 4th row for the start on Sunday. Remember, tomorrow race has been set, or the order has been set earlier today. This is all for Sunday. And I do think that as we get a final improvement from Alexei Komarov in the 488, was only good enough for P4. He pole setter for tomorrow.
How can it be so different from Quali 1 to Quali 2? And this is what's great about the Ferrari Challenge. What can you expect? The unexpected.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well done to Henry Hassid. Big well done to John Dillon as well, who chased him. And actually, in the end, just a 10th.5 between Henry Hassid and John Dillon. Henry Hassid has been dominant for quite some time. Has really taken to him today.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is the car, but, you know, he's been challenged, but he has resisted the challenge, and he has gotten 2 points for 2 pole positions, so he's not doing any harm to his championship hopes, and he drives off to the scrutineering garage, because obviously that's also part of the Ferrari Challenge. A selected number of drivers have to report, and Henry Hassid is one of them.
So confirmation of the classification: Henry Hassid, John Dillon P2, Andreas Rizzi P3. Then it was James Weiland, Alexander Nussbaumer, Andrzej Lewandowski, Manuela Gostner, Tibor Valint, Motohiko Isasaki, and Ray Acosta completing the top 10 of our Coppa Shell drivers. Ahead of Thomas Gostner, von Skeltermar, Thomas Loflad, Christoph Herney, Michael Martin and Ken Abe. Now for our 488 drivers, it was Sven Schirmer who was quickest, ahead of Friedrich Müller and Faisal Shayer. And they were ahead of pole sitter for race 1, Alexei Komarov. Quinn Vetlisbach, then Tommy Lindroth, Pino Frascaro, Niels Sebranson, Germano Salernitano, and Ernst Kirkmeyer, who finishes probably further down the order than he would have expected. So there we have it. Qualifying done and dusted. Please make sure you join us for racing tomorrow. Bye-bye.